Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's at-large City Council Candidate Forum organized by Quincy Asian Resources, the Asian Community Development Corporation, both members of the API Ken Network, and co-sponsored by South Cove Community Health Center. My name is John Brothers. I'm the past Executive Director of Quincy Asian Resources, and I'll be moderating the forum and asking questions solicited from the community by event organizers. For the audience, please hold your applause until the end of the event so that we can listen to the candidates' answers. Before we start with the questions, the candidates will each have 90 seconds to present their backgrounds and describe why they are running for office. I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight and making yourself available to answer some of our questions and share with our community. There is a timekeeper sitting in front of you, and I'll ask you to please finish your answers on time, and I hope I don't have to cut you off. We see you in alphabetical order, and for the first opening statement, we'll start with Mr. DeBona.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Noel DeBona, and I'm currently one of your councilors at large. I grew up here in the city, was educated through the Quincy Public Schools, and furthered my education with a bachelor's degree from the University of Massachusetts, Boston. I'm here to raise my family. I have a wife, Neve, and 3 young children that are 5 years old, 3 years old, and 1 year old, 2 boys and a girl. Very important that we have a safe neighborhood for our children and our education system for the future of our city. Public safety is very important as well. I'm a small business owner. For the last 21 years, I'm a small business here in the city of Quincy with landscape and snow removal business. I'm really a blue-collar worker and I work very hard. I haven't missed a single city council meeting up at the council since I've been a member up there. And my background is being a school committee member, so I'm very involved with the schools. I want you to know that you get 3 votes for councilor at large, 3 people that you can vote for up here. And all I ask is if you can help me out with one of those 3 votes to continue to be your voice up at the city council, and for all of you to have a nice, great Quincy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeBona. Again, if you could please try to silence your phones. Next, we have Ms. LaForest.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Margaret LaForest. I have been representing Ward 1 on the City Council for 8 years. That's the majority of Quincy's waterfront. I'm known for being very active in the community. I have over 3 decades of community service, and I'm very responsive to my constituents. I find that being out accessible in the community and communicating with your constituents is one of the most important roles. My husband Jeff and I have 2 daughters, Kelsey and Krista, and my children are the 6th generation of my family to live in Quincy. My family has always been very committed to our community. My priorities on the City Council are the quality of life issues that we all share, the future sustainability and affordability of our community. Quincy is a very safe city. The strength of our city is in our neighborhoods. It is imperative that we protect the integrity of our neighborhoods. And we look at the focus right now of our downtown. It's a very pivotal time for the city of Quincy as we modernize, as we update our community and support businesses within our municipality. Our transportation is some of our biggest challenges. I'm sure we'll be getting further into that discussion tonight along the urban corridor. What we find is a lot of people love the city of Quincy. They want to work, live, and play here. It's about keeping Quincy affordable for future generations in our community. Thank you very much for your time.
Next, we have Ms. Lena.
大家好，我名係梁思晴，喺我發展到 Quincy 做緊你嘅議員。我想我哋喺 QARI ACGC 同 South Cove Community Health Center 聽晒我屋企開緊會。我哋快 John 同 Angie 幫些幫我佢，我想我哋快啲出嚟同我傾啊！我喺緊聊佢同我講得我好開心。其實咧，你係有乜問題咧？你就問直我。其實我樂意會同你問題啦。I'm Nina Liang, and I'm your at-large city councilor. I'm proud to serve as an at-large councilor for my hometown. Quincy is an incredible place. This is something I knew when I first ran for office, and I've learned much more about that in these last 2 years. In every neighborhood, every civic association and nonprofit organization, all of our neighbors and our friends are committed to making our city thrive. We are all a part of this amazing community, and I'm proud to represent all of the people of Quincy. 2 years ago, I ran on a pretty simple platform: to make our city government more accessible and transparent, and to engage more residents into the work at City Hall. While we've made progress on both these fronts, I believe there's still more to do. I believe we can do better. Today, I'm running for re-election to the Quincy City Council because I know I have more to contribute. I am running because I want to build upon the progress that we've made together. And I'm running because I want to continue to be your voice for all of us here in the city. Thank you for your time.
Please hold your applause. Please hold your applause until the end of the event. Thank you. Ms. Mahoney.
Good evening. I'm Ann Mahoney, and I'm a candidate for Councillor at Large. I want to thank QARI and I want to thank ACDC for bringing us here together tonight to talk about the City of Quincy. The City of Quincy is where I call home. I was born, raised, and educated here. It's where my heart is. I went to Suffolk University and I earned a degree in finance. I use that degree every single day for the last 27 years in the private business practices in the financial industry. I've raised my 3 children here in Quincy. All of them attended Quincy Public Schools, and my youngest is in 10th grade here at North Quincy High School. I've been on the school committee for the last 12 years. I live down the street from my parents, Joseph and Mary Mulligan. My mother is an immigrant from Ireland, and she came here over 69 years ago. So she's been here in the city of Quincy for 68 years. Yet sometimes she doesn't feel like she's part of Quincy because she's not decades into Quincy. She's not generational, but my family is. I want to make Quincy a community that we all feel welcomed in. I want Quincy to be a safe place for all of us to live, and I want to earn your vote on November 7th so I can be your voice on the City Council. Concerns about raising taxes, about sustainability to be able to live here, about community and education. I know that's where your hearts are, and I know I can be that voice in the City Council to help your voices be heard and you to be represented. Thank you very much, and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Ms. Mahoney. Please hold your applause. Please hold your applause. Mr. Ramonte.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dan Ramondi, and I'm a candidate also for Council at Large. I'm the fellow that passed out these green flies for you, so if anybody needs any additional ones, feel free to contact me after this event. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Quincy and a proud graduate of Quincy Public Schools, Holy Cross College, and Boston College Law School. So like many of you, and the reason why many of us continue to live in the city or come to live within the city of Quincy, we value education as a pathway to help our children, our families, and our community. And that's what led me to serve 8 years on the Quincy School Committee, 2 years as your vice chair, where I led the effort to build new schools within the city and achieve lower class size and academic and technological opportunities for all students. As a city councilor, for many years, 2 years as council president, I wrote the hotel-motel legislation that has resulted in $15 million coming into our city. Now that's not paid by us, that's paid by visitors to our city. And we use that money to pay for the very parks, playgrounds, beaches that all of you enjoy and every person within the city of Quincy enjoys. That's the kind of aggressive financial stewardship and innovation that I would bring to the City Council. So thank you again for coming. I'm number 5 on the ballot. I would appreciate your vote on November 7th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please hold your applause.
Hi, good evening. My name is Steve Tugas. I grew up in Quincy. I left Quincy and then came back. I spent a third of my life here. I woke up politically at 9/11, and an activist said, "You don't do politics. Politics will continue to do you." I got involved on a lot on the state level. I helped save money from every single person here when I helped repeal a gas tax that would escalate forever. And I basically got local when I basically learned a lot of things that were going on in my city. I'm chairman of my Ward 4 Republican Party, and I've learned what we're supposed to have from our founding fathers. I want to reduce taxes, but I also want to serve the people. That's part of it, yes. But I also want to try to cut out whatever spending will help reduce taxes at the same time as spending what you need to spend in order to grow as a city. modernizing without globalizing, and that is my theme, and please elect me. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you. Please hold your applause. Okay. So now we're going to start with the first question. And this question, we will start with Ms. LaForest. And that question is, the population of Quincy is over 24% Asian American. How should the administration further address the need for Quincy's first responders, police, fire, and ambulance, to communicate with residents with limited English proficiency in emergency and other situations?
Sure, thank you. I've actually talked to Police Chief Keenan in regards to this to get a better understanding, and I do understand that there's a lot of different dialects with the diverse community that we have, that they do have interpretive services. I think that there's an opportunity to make improvements to that for the City of Quincy through all of our communication channels. For example, whether it's the city website is information that we're putting out, you can have the technology to make these interpretive so they're able to better communicate. I think there is a lot more opportunity for Quincy to do better by that, but from what I'm understanding from the police chief directly himself, that their current policy is working.
Ms. Liang?
Sorry, I don't know if you said hand. So thank you for asking this question. I think it's important that it's something that we continue to talk about and address from all levels. Our first responders are phenomenal across the board, whether it's with the ambulance, with the fire, or with the police. Our first responders are top of the line, and they're always putting themselves out there to help anyone, regardless of what your background is. That being said, language is a barrier, and it has posed problems for folks. And simply hiring somebody that is on site that happens to speak another language is not going to be the one solution. My family, they speak Toisanese, but that's just one dialect. And so, like my fellow colleagues said, there are a lot of different dialects. And even when you do speak it fluently, you have to make sure that there are professionals on site to provide those translation services. I've used translation services for my younger sister for medical reasons. And just because I understand what's going on does not mean that I'm a professional translator. That's important because you need to have an unbiased, very clear translation for the person that is speaking as well as the person that's receiving that information. I've worked directly with QARI, with members in QARI, and with the mayor's office in discussing having professional translation services and not just somebody that happens to speak the language. And that's the direction we need to continue to move in, create more funding for those positions in order to solve this problem long term. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is an issue that is very concerning. My parents are seniors, and it can be hard when something emergency happens and somebody has to come to their home. I can't imagine the fear it must be to have somebody come when you don't speak your language. The issues are very clear. We need to have more bilingual people who work in the city of Quincy, both in the fire and the police. We should make sure that when we're hiring people, that's one of our qualifications that we have. When we're hiring people for the fire and police, and even with our emergency responders for the ambulance, we want to make sure that they also have bilingual speakers that are being able to come to those homes. The reality is very simple. We have 24% of people who do not speak our language fluently in the city of Quincy, and we want to make sure that you feel safe in your own homes and that we're able to help you should your need arise. So to do that, on your city council, I'll be sure when we are in a hiring phase for fire and police, that we're making sure that we're bringing in people who can speak the language that can service our community to the best of your advantages. I really do think that it's something that we need to start doing as soon as possible. We've waited for a long time, and your community has waited for a long time. We don't have enough of them on our fire and police. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We all know how important it is for police, fire, and EMTs to respond to accidents or any personal emergencies that may happen in anyone's home. We know how critically important time is. And when you add to that any language barriers or lack of communication that may exist at that point of contact with the individual, and you can see how serious that situation is. Public safety has always been a top priority for me. That's why I'm proud to have worked with our police officers to make our neighborhoods safer, and I'm very proud to wear the distinction of being an honorary firefighter in the city of Quincy being appointed by Quincy firefighters. So I know the importance of safety. I know the importance of being able to effectively communicate with a patient, and we need to do a better job as a municipality in doing that. Our police and fire are civil servants, and the mayor can't ask for a civil service list that has an Asian communication skill to it. So we need to do a better job in upgrading our communication skills at police and fire. We do contract with our ambulance service, and perhaps the next round of contracting we can mandate that they have the ability to communicate with every aspect of the diversity of this great city. So I appreciate the questions, one that we need to do better. Thank you.
When I collected signatures to repeal a gas tax that was tyrannical, I did not think that I was doing it just for one class or race of people. I was doing it for everybody, all Americans, all citizens in Massachusetts. And when I work, if I get elected, I will be working for all citizens regardless. Now, there is a language barrier, I understand, and it makes sense that if you're going into an area, sending EMTs to at least appoint somebody to go along that can speak the language. And so I would work on legislation to try to make sure that there are people hired from among all of the languages, areas that are predominant, and go into that area. So I do understand the importance of civil service. We do need to maintain our community, and that is one of the main things. Also education, but that's another subject. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to Mr. DuBois.
I want to speak a little bit about something that the other candidates didn't talk about. This is a great opportunity for your grandchildren, sons and daughters, to be involved with becoming a Quincy police officer, a Quincy firefighter, or an EMT person. We can use resources that we have in the city like QARI and Quincy Asian Resources that the mayor's office has in Benny Yao. You can educate our children to become these translators that we're all talking about, the bilingual part. This is an opportunity for the Asian community, the 24% of the population in Quincy, to become these first responders. This is an opportunity for us to educate, and I will facilitate, I will help in the process of doing that. And that's what it's about, is finding out where this can be, whether it be through a website, whether it be through a mailing, or whether we go door to door like we are knocking on doors. For the last 6 months, I've been out there since April knocking on doors. I've lost 25 pounds in the process because I care about what all of you want. And if this is an area that we need to specialize in, and we need to get more of, then I will do that. And we have some police officers that are Asian, that are bilingual, that help out our community and very, very good in the community. We've got to continue that, and it's all through networking, and it's all through communication. All of you speaking to us, and me speaking to all of you. Thank you.
Please hold your applause. So now to question number 2, and we're going to start with Ms. Lang. Quincy residents have seen significant increases in their property taxes. In your opinion, what can the city do to help ease the tax burden on our residents?
Thank you for the question, John. This is an important issue that resonates with everyone across the city, regardless of what neighborhood you're in, regardless of how old you are, how long you've been here, what your background is, and it's affecting all of us in the same way, which is negatively, unfortunately. Here in the city of Quincy, out of our $300 million budget, as residents, we're carrying about 90% of that burden. And as we continue to expand here in the city, the benefits of that are that we're fixing our infrastructure, we're rebuilding our schools, we're making sure that the investments here in the city are most up to date for us so that we have the best services. However, again, we're carrying the majority of that burden. And as your city councilor, I've advocated for and have worked hard to try and craft a residential property tax exemption that I'm hoping my colleagues will support that will alleviate the burden on the residents here in the city. As we continue to grow, we too also need to push for commercial development and commercial growth. I've had the experience of working with my family's restaurant group and expanding and working with developers and talking to larger companies that are investing 30 to 50 years in a community. Those are the conversations that I've been having with developers, and those are the conversations we need to ensure will lead to contracts. And so both of those avenues need to happen at the same time. We need to bring in more offices, more large companies that are committed to carrying the tax burden with us here in the city. And at the same time, more immediately, we need to enforce a residential tax exemption that will alleviate the burden that comes on all of our residents here. Thank you.
Please hold the flag. Ms. Mahoney.
So Quincy has had an amazing amount of new development that's happened in the city of Quincy. But what was forgotten about was the long-term residents who have lived here. That residential tax break should have been thought about before we even started the development, just like the traffic and road conditions that have also been forgotten about. We need to bring that residential tax break to the taxpayers in the city of Quincy immediately. Whether it starts at 0% and moves its way up, we need to give that break to the people who live here, who have been here for a long term, who have been for the ups and downs of the city of Quincy, who will be here through the long haul. We also have to find a way to market our city. We have a lot of empty storefronts. Empty storefronts mean no revenues coming into the city of Quincy. We have the right demographics here in the city of Quincy. We need to fill those empty storefronts, and we need to do it now. More businesses are leaving in the middle of the night here in Quincy than they're coming in, and we need to start doing that. We're building buildings with opportunities in the bottom of our buildings, but we're not filling them right away. These are opportunities to help with the taxes in our city. And the most important thing that we need to start doing is reining in our expenses. We are spending money faster than we are bringing it in. Your taxes can't keep up with what we're spending. We're bonding out our future, and that's your children's future. So I know how hard it's getting for people to be able to afford to live in Quincy. But we on the City Council have an opportunity to be your voice and to be able to let you be heard. Residential tax break, bringing in commercial property, and also making sure that we're cutting spending. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very sensitive to the needs of families, young and old, and the seniors of our community, many of whom are house rich and cash poor. For many years as a city councilor, I was known as the city's fiscal watchdog, where of any candidate on this panel, I have probably cut and reduced public spending more than anyone here. And that's why, one of the reasons why I'm proud to be endorsed by the Quincy Taxpayers Association. So the first thing we need to do as a city council is to be a watchdog over fiscal spending. Secondly, we need to ask our developers to do more for us. There's an awful lot of infrastructure work that the development comes in, walks away, and then the taxpayers are left with paying for roads, sidewalk, or infrastructure repairs. We need developers, we need them to do more for us. We also need development that brings more commercial and retail value to our city. Residential is fine, but we need that other component to increase our tax base. We also need to think outside the box and be creative, and that's what I've done by introducing the hotel motel legislation that's added $15 million in counting. Every night, every weekend, those funds keep coming in to offset the burden of the taxpayer. So I'm in your corner, and you vote for Dan Raimondi, you've got a friend who wants spending. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Susan.
My rent just raised recently, and the landlord tells me that it's because Quincy raised taxes. Well, what happens if you've got your income and your money, and you all of a sudden find that you don't have enough money, right? You can't just get more money without getting a raise or something else. What Quincy does is simply, when they want more money, they tax you. Well, it takes an activist to care, and I've worked on many ballot issues. I'm working on 2 ballot initiatives currently. One to lower the sales tax to 5%, and the other one to end taxpayer funding of abortion. I've also been very advocate in caring about the issues, and the idea is that what we have to do is we have to lower spending, and that's what you have to do if you can't afford your money, your rent at the end of the month. And so basically, that's what we have to look at, is what can we cut out while still providing effective services, while still meeting the needs of a growing community. And I've got my name on a patent, so I understand working with technology and working with what you have. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tweedle. Mr. Bone.
Taxes is always part of a community, part of a municipality. What's important is what do you get out of your taxes? You know, we've been working on the commercial growth in this city over the last few years. Remember, the Streetworks deal was 3 years off of time of revenue that we could have been generating in the city. So we're 3 years behind in time. However, we have found out what is important and what will work in the city of Quincy. Our commercial tax rate will help out our residential tax rate, will lower our taxes. We also have to look for the developers. The developers can help out with a fund that will help out a tax bracket. I'm looking to have a $500 tax abatement for anybody over the age of 65, whatever criteria of financial income that you make. Doesn't matter. This will be a setup fund from the developers, as well as our education system, our public safety, and infrastructure improvements. One thing that we have to consider, and always consider, is that we don't pay for trash. That is built into our taxes. On top of that, we have free all-day kindergarten. One of the main things that people want to come here for is for our services. A lot of communities throughout the South Shore charge for kindergarten up to $4,000 per year per child. We don't charge that here in the city of Quincy. So we have to strike the balance for taxes. I'm going to help lower the tax rate for you, but we need to keep some of the services there intact. It's a balancing act. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bonin. Mr. Forrest?
Thank you. Currently, we have an 80-20 split. 80% of our property taxes comes from residential and only 20% from commercial. Our commercial tax rate is 1.5 times the residential rate. Our downtown, when I grew up, had great memories. Child World, Coleman's, Remex, going to the movie theater, there were businesses. Now I'm doing a lot of my household errands outside the city. If I need to go to Staples, I'm leaving the city to get ink for my printer. We need to meet the needs of our municipality within the city. Currently before the City Council, we have 2 proposals. One is residential, the owner-occupied potential abatement, and then the second is to look at apartment buildings and whether we should be taxing those as residential rate or the commercial rate. Because when you have multi-unit dwellings, that's a business income. It's not just solely as a residence. Our downtown will be bringing in, the ordinance committee will be looking at a land disposition agreement that will potentially transform our downtown with 1 million square feet of commercial development being proposed by Foxrock. We're anticipating that project proposal coming in to the City Council this fall. I chair the ordinance committee. We are going to be chairing that. They're also talking about this connections with the Quincy Hospital project, and maintaining emergency health care services in our community is imperative. We have the opportunity to work to revolutionize commercial development. We've seen buildings that have been long dilapidated come down. It's a pivotal time for Quincy. Now is the time to have our downtown working for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LaForest. So please hold your applause, folks. The next question. In the last 10 years, there have been an average of 58 motor vehicle crashes per year. That's 58 motor vehicle crashes per year in Quincy that have involved pedestrians and cyclists and resulted in injuries. That includes 21 fatalities over that length of time. As an elected official representing everyone in Quincy, will you advocate for infrastructure improvements in order to create a safer environment for pedestrians and cyclists? And will you advocate for the city to apply for funding from the State Complete Street Program to support that plan? Starting with Ms. Mahoney. Ms. Mahoney, if we could please keep it down, and thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. I absolutely would advocate to make sure that we have complete streets here in Quincy so that pedestrians, cyclists, and people on the road are all safe. 10 years ago, we also started the development for the city of Quincy. We've had massive growth, and we did not do a traffic study in the city of Quincy. We're now behind the 8 ball, as often we are in the city of Quincy, being reactionary to the problems that we have, that we created ourselves here in the city of Quincy. We created them because we didn't ask the questions up front in those projects to make sure that we were preparing our city for its growth and for the things that were to come. And what that's brought is dangerous streets, fatalities, and reactionary opportunities for people to talk about this on the council. We need to stop talking, we need to start doing. One of the first things that we can do in the city of Quincy is start enforcing the rules of the road. We need more police officers to pull people over when they're driving too fast, to stop them from going down streets the wrong way. If we're going to put up signs, we need to make sure we're enforcing those signs in those neighborhoods that we put them up, or don't put them up at all because they're not solving anything. They're creating more confusion on our streets. We need to start protecting the constituents who live here in the city of Quincy, who are trying to go to work, to get to the train stations, to go to school. And to do that, we need to make sure we're enforcing the rules of the road right here now, and start planning for the future with complete streets so that we can protect those of us who want to do alternative ways to get to school and to work on bikes and on other things.
Bicycle and pedestrian safety are big issues within the city of Quincy. As the Commissioner of Public Works for the past 6 years, in addition to advocating for safety, I actually did something about it. We organized with the department and AAA and Children's Hospital and Mass Department of Transportation. We organized Quincy's first bicycle pedestrian safety rodeo. Because one of the biggest components that we have, not only in this municipality, but all across the Commonwealth, is to educate our young people as to what to be alert for when they're on their bicycles or when they're about to cross the street. And that's what that rodeo was all about, to educate our young people, put them on their bikes, and in a sense, have them navigate what is a roadway with stop signs and other people and traffic, to educate them as to how to handle those types of events. We need to do a better job striping our crosswalks. We need to do a better job synchronizing our traffic control signals. And clearly, we have to bring into the city whatever state funds are available. And the SMART program and attracting state dollars is vitally important to make sure we continue to make Quincy a safe place to walk and ride a bicycle. That's really the future of our city, to be a multi-dimensional transportation society. A lot of people like to walk, a lot of people like to take bikes, take cars. Thank you.
I love to bicycle, and I've done a lot of biking in Quincy. I oftentimes would think nothing of taking a bike ride to Braintree, and I've never had any problems because I know the rules. And I've seen people who ride against the traffic and everything, and I basically tell them, get on the other side, and I wear my helmet, and I understand. I mean, safety is a huge thing, because I don't want to get hurt or hurt anybody else. And I understand safety because some of the medical devices I've designed can kill people. So, and the petroleum overfill I have at refineries have my name on the patent. I definitely understand safety on that one. That was a huge project. But basically getting back to traffic, the mixing of bicycles and people with the bike paths, I think is a really bad idea, and that's part of globalization. And basically, I think that I totally agree with my colleague here that we do need education. And I was educated properly as to how to ride my bike, and I think that that would go a long way to making safety a paramount issue. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bowman.
Being part of the City Council right now, we're in a finance committee where we're looking, and we've already passed a comprehensive traffic study, pedestrian safety study, as well as bicycle safety in the city of Quincy. We're looking to pass that as soon as it comes in front of the City Council and ready to approve it. We're going to be working together to elaborate a citywide design study that will find out where we need mitigation and problems within the city. It will also find out where we have all these accidents and how to mitigate that. Very importantly is we need to become more of a pedestrian-friendly city. A lot of people do not drive vehicles or cars, and they rely on crosswalks, and they rely on bicycles and MBTA systems and ferry systems and using the T. We need to provide that service for all of you, and to do so, we need to find out where the mitigation needs to be. I'm willing to enforce these rules and regulations that we have in the city, but we need to do it collaboratively as a group. We need to work together. In the wintertime, when there's causing potholes, we need to have a very good system with relieving that in our streets and our sidewalks. It's very important. We've come a long way in the city of Quincy, but remember, all of this costs funding. It costs money to do this. We're going to need to generate more funding from our commercial tax bracket, from the developers, to allow this to happen in our city. It's a work in progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Generally, Quincy is a very safe city, and I'm very proud of the Quincy Police Department. They actually put all of their information up on the city website. You can go scroll through and kind of see what they're being reported in your neighborhoods. The accidents is part of that data. But I also want to mention the first question on public safety in the language services was that the Smart 911 system is an opportunity to get online and provide your personal information. And so that might be something that you can have that younger generation provide, so that when somebody is coming to your home, they know the information, they know what language, and they're providing that in advance of any emergency situation. We have a lot of distracted drivers on the road right now, and I think that's part of what is contributing to these statistics. There's texting and driving. They're not paying attention, they're tuning into the mobile apps and the ways, following around the city. One of the projects that I've worked on with my district is that the Atherton House School does a safe walking routes to school, and it's with one of the transportation programs. They come out, they see where the children are living, and I think part of it is about reducing the traffic volume in our city and making pedestrians feel comfortable and encouraging walking. It's also a health and wellness initiative, but what we did was mapped out routes to the schools, and I know a lot of, particularly in the Asian community, grandparents are walking their grandchildren to school, picking them up at the end of the day. So we designated walking routes to the schools, and it was kind of a walking school bus theme that the older kids and the chaperones would pick the younger kids up along the way. And I think encouraging more pedestrian use, particularly through the schools, is an opportunity we can do better on. Thank you.
Thank you. So when it comes to pedestrian safety and bicycle safety, those are two prongs of what I'd like to discuss as the umbrella under traffic, right? You're also talking about congestion and parking issues, but with pedestrian safety and bicycle safety, those are alternative means of transportation for folks to get around across the city here, and those are the kinds of things we want to promote and support. I had the honor of serving on Quincycles not too long ago, and working with these folks that live right here in the city, they went across and identified the spines or the main arteries here in the city that would be perfect to create some bike lanes, protected bike lanes, so that those that are using alternative means of transportation, alleviating our congestion problem, are going to be safe when they're on the roads. That's just one step in that direction. As my fellow colleague had mentioned, we have approved the Complete Streets proposal that has been in front of us now, and that is going to take a few months before we can actually request any grant funding. And the reason for that is because we're going to go into the neighborhoods, into the communities, talk with folks like yourself to make sure that we're addressing the issues that you see every day, that we don't miss a street, we don't miss a crosswalk, and when we do propose to request for funding, we have every fix that we need in place. That's one way we can create funding to address these issues. Another is an ordinance that I'm sponsoring right now, which is requesting that developers moving into the city do contribute into a fund, and that fund will help to pay for repairs and the fixes that we need to protect all of the pedestrians and all of the bicyclists. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. So we've offered you some tough questions. Now we're moving on to question number 4. Thank you for your considered responses. Many residents struggle to keep up with rising housing prices and rents. What ideas do you have to create more affordable housing so that more Quincy residents can afford to stay in this city?
The value of homes in Quincy is something that, as a homeowner myself and as elected official, you like to see values rise as the most principal investment that most people have. But on the other side of that, you have folks who want to come to the city or continue to live within the city, or whose children want to live within the city and they can't afford that. So we need to strike that balance where those folks who have made the investment and want to move on perhaps and upon retirement and sell their home can recoup that value, while other folks coming into the city have an opportunity to be able to afford Quincy. We have multiple opportunities within the city. Our goal is to have developers come up with a 10% factor of having affordable units, or have a money item that would be commensurate with that could go into a affordable housing trust fund. We have a number of organizations, as I know you're aware of, Jonathan, that partner with the city to open up opportunities for many renters and future homeowners. The first homeowners buyers program that the city partners with is a very valuable tool. So as someone who has grown up in the city and understands the value of property, I get the fact that we need to partner with folks that can make Quincy more affordable. Thank you.
Mr. Judas.
The key to affordable housing is lower taxes, and as an activist, that has been my bent for many years. Like I said, I'm an activist. I'm not really a politician, so if you want a politician, don't vote for me. But I choose to try to do whatever I can on the state level, and right now I'm working on the local level to do that. As far as affordable housing, I've seen a lot of these units go up, and they're expensive, and so there needs to be some affordable housing set aside, some units that are made specifically for affordable housing, and I will work to try to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DeVoe.
This is a great question. Affordable housing. There are many neighborhoods and there's many structures around the city that have blight situations, which means there are houses that are under par. They need to be redeveloped. And that's an opportunity for people like ourselves to buy into these properties and rebuild them in a better state. There's plenty of carpenters out there. There's plenty of construction workers out there. We could do the work. You just have to make sure that you take the proper avenues of doing that. The affordable housing has affordable housing trust, which millions and millions of dollars is sitting in right now, and that you can use to develop around the city. Right now, over by the Fall River Shipyard, there's 144 units being done by NeighborWorks, which is a nice development company that comes in and builds up areas that need affordable housing. I'm looking to get into areas and neighborhoods of the city that we need this affordable housing. There's also another thing called workforce housing, which is another criteria above affordable housing, which is a little criteria above that, 80% to 120% of the median income of $62,000. So there's affordable housing, and then there's also workforce housing, which is our new term that you'll be hearing about a lot more. But I'm looking to redevelop throughout the city of Quincy. There's areas right by the Fall River Shipyard. There's areas right here behind here at Welcome Young that you can redevelop, and they're looking to do more units and make it affordable for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. The City of Quincy has an inclusionary zoning ordinance. What it requires is for any development with 10 or more units, developers have the option of either A, giving 1 unit per 10, so for a 100-unit building, 10 units, or a payment in lieu of, based on their construction costs. I have represented the City Council on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for the City of Quincy for 8 years. We have made some great projects throughout the city. I wish there was millions of dollars sitting in the account. There is not. However, as these large-scale projects get permitted, we do see some funding coming in the pipeline. NeighborWorks has been a terrific partner. They're one of the CHODO's, Community Housing Development Organization, as well as Quincy Community Action. One of the projects they worked on in my district was the old American Legion post. It was actually a blighted property coming onto the market. They demolished it, and they made a duplex for 2 veterans' families. Some of the units, instead of providing just into the apartments and these large-scale apartment projects that we've seen success of, and this is something we've piloted in Ward 1, is when these developers, for example, the Temple Bethel along Hancock Street was 56 units. They owed 5 units to the Affordable Housing Trust. What they did is they bought a 5-family home in Adams Shore, and we've moved Quincy residents into those properties. So the city has tools at our disposal for affordable housing. Quincy's development has been stagnant. We have not been having funding come in. As these projects are being proposed, they are paying into the fund or providing these units. The Watson project is one of the best projects I really look forward to. We have great nonprofit partners who help us in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, John. When it comes to being able to afford to live here in the city, I think there are 2 issues with that. One is that if you've been here for years and you're currently in the home that you're in, that you can't afford to stay there. I came across a family the other day when I was door knocking down in Marymount who had actually told me that she was excited because her son was the 6th generation of her family that had lived there, and they're celebrating their 100th year of their family living there. And it's just one story of many that we see across the city. And for families like that, their concern is, can I afford to stay here? On the other hand, you also have folks that are looking to, buy their first home or rent an apartment. And even if you're renting or buying for the first time, you are also struggling to stay here in the city. So we need to address that on both ends of it. For the first one, if you're a current homeowner, current property owner, again, I'm advocating for a residential tax exemption to make sure that your costs to stay in your home are down. And we need to go ahead and enforce that right away because, Massachusetts allows up to 35%. We should be taking advantage of that. When it comes to new developments and new properties here in the city, I've heard it from folks. It's too expensive to create affordable housing units. Well, I can tell you, we've worked with organizations like one of the ones hosting tonight's event, ACDC, and they've been able to build beautiful apartment buildings that are all at an affordable rate. This is something that is possible. It's something that they've done here in the city. We need to continue to promote and support organizations that can bring more affordable housing units here so that we can all afford to either own our home, buy a new home, or continue to rent here in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Please hold your thoughts.
So there's an income gap that's happening in the city of Quincy. With all of the development that's happening, our real estate tax has grown 29% since 2011. People's income, their basic income, has not raised that much. People's salaries have not gone up, and people are being at a point where they can't afford to stay in their homes. Whether they're seniors on a fixed income or two income earners are sometimes having a hard time staying in the city of Quincy. Young families who want to come to Quincy are having a hard time being able to afford Quincy. Renters, I don't know any renters who can afford Quincy with the developments that are going up now. We can't be putting money into trusts to build things because we won't have any space left to build if we're not careful. We're building everywhere. Every square inch of our city is being built out, and it's changing the neighborhood fabric of the way it is today. We need to make sure those developers who are developing units that we can afford, that people, the average Joe, can afford, that they can go into. And the way they do that is by making the units less high-end, so that maybe they don't have stainless steel, maybe they don't have granite countertops, but they're affordable for people to be able to move into. We need to enforce that with the developers who are developing in the city of Quincy, because putting money in a trust and finding the land to be able to build that is becoming less and less apparent. And we need to make sure we're integrating these homes for everybody so that we can live throughout the city and not just in one section and feel isolated because it's affordable income. We want to be part of a community and part of our city. We need to find places where we can save money so that people can afford to live here.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Thank you. So question number 5, starting with Mr. Stugas. There are a large number of Asian residents in Quincy, as we all know. Many of whom have limited English proficiency. If elected, what will you do to make sure that these constituents have access to you?
Well, we have something called technocracy and technology. We definitely can do email. I get a lot of email from people and read it. I will post things on my website. I have my own personal website. Actually, I wrote my website from scratch in Notepad using HTML, so that, because like I say, I'm a software engineer, so I understand all that. I developed surgery over the internet, so I understand technology more than your average person. So I would work with that to be able to get a hold of me and I will get back to people. So that's.
Mr. DeBona?
Well, I just want to let you know that I have a business card right here that I will give anyone in here that wants one after this candidates night. I make myself very available. I've been the only politician that's been out there for the last 4 years knocking on doors, and I start very, very early. I'm about 10,000 doors in right now since April. I hold office hours at City Hall on a monthly basis. If you can't get a hold of me via email, you don't have email, you can call me on the phone. If you don't want to, you can make an appointment right now. I'll come to your house and we'll talk to you face to face about whatever issue that you have. I will make myself available all the time. I'm always involved in the community, at neighborhood associations. I'm always involved in the community at school events, PTOs, whatever it is, whatever you need, I will be accessible. If you see me on the street, please, if you have a question, feel free to come right up to me and ask that question. I make myself available, and it's very comfortable that you could be comforted that I will talk to you wherever I am. If I have my children with me, I'd still talk to you. And if I can't talk to you then, we will make a time and a place that I will meet with you at your convenience. I will come to your house and knock on your door, and if you invite me in, I'll talk to you on your living room table, with you, all of you. So I want you to know that I will continuously always be available as a city councilor at large. You can look me up on the website as well and find out all my information, or you can come to me after this candidates night. I just want you to know that I always make myself available and approachable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeBona. Ms. LaForest?
Thank you. Accessibility to your elected officials as a city councilor, we're the elected officials closest to the people. I pride myself on my communications and accessibility. I mentioned tonight wanting more translation services through the city website. What I pride myself on is my own website, my e-newsletters that I sent out. I'm actually going to leave here and go find out how I can add those translation services to that. You're right, there is a need for communication, and I'm glad to pursue that. I think that's a great idea. I tell everyone I'm available 24/7, 365. People call me, they text me, they email me, they Facebook private message me. I find that that is something that I do very well and am known for. In past, we've had issues. There was a language barrier. We're working with Quincy Housing, and I reached out and brought on board a translator to sit with me because we were finding a definite communication gap with the maintenance issue they were working on, and I sat down and worked with a translator, and that's worked with me in the past. By all means, call me, reach out to me, and if we do need translator services, that's something that I am glad to pursue to make sure that your needs are being heard and that your concerns are being addressed. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, John. Accessibility is important to me as well, particularly for our growing diverse population here in the city. I have the benefit and the honor of sort of being on both sides of it. You know, I grew up in a Chinese American household speaking Chinese, but I'm also born and raised here in the city, and so being able to address the issues and to support all the residents here in the city has really been an honor. What I've noticed is that when people reach out to me, whether it's by call or text or WeChat or WhatsApp, their issues are the same across the board. You know, I've heard from folks that have called and only speak Chinese, but the issue is, my taxes are too high. What are you going to do about that? You know, or somebody might come to me and say, there's a pothole that needs to be fixed. So regardless of the language barrier, what I want everyone to understand is that we are here to serve you. We are here to work for you. And regardless of what the issue is, regardless of what language you speak, we are here to make sure that we're listening to you and that we're addressing those problems. And we're never going to judge you based off of what the concern is. We're never going to question about whether or not you're bringing up a topic to complain. You're not. This is our job. And we owe it to you to make sure that we're always addressing those problems. And so, again, regardless of what language we speak, as your city councilor, as your representatives of the city, of all the departments, the nonprofit organizations we have, we're all here to serve you. And so do not ever be shy to reach out to any of us. And again, I'm accessible by phone, text, WeChat. I've come to the senior buildings quite frequently to chat with you as well. Please keep in touch. Thank you.
Accessibility is a very important component of the job that we do. We need to be able to understand what your questions are and what your needs are so we can fulfill them. As a representative of the school committee for the last 12 years, we have over 300 different dialects that are spoken, different languages, different countries within our school system. We have to make sure we're meeting the needs of our students. And we do that by making sure that there's interpreters to be able to answer those questions. When I go to a senior home or when I'm going places, I always make sure that I have somebody that can help me translate your questions so I can fully understand what it is that you're asking, so that we can be actionable about solving those problems. I see many of you here in the audience tonight. I know what your concerns are. You're passionate about those concerns. From safety in your buildings, from feeling that something has been taken from you, to safety on the streets, to understanding our taxes and the spending that's going on. Concerns that involve all of us. And it's the same as if you speak English or you speak any other language. We need to understand what those things are. It's what brings us together as a community. We need to remember that too. The way we solve problems is by coming together. You raising your questions and bringing them to us so that we're all working towards the same goal, the same solutions. And we can do that by working for you. I want to be your voice on the City Council so that your voices are being heard and your solutions are being made because you brought them to us. We're your government. We're here to service you, to work for you, and to answer the questions that you have to make sure that we're making those implementations for you. So accessibility is very important, and I'll make sure I'm always available for you.
Thank you, Ms. Minogue. Mr. Ramani.
I'm going to go off a bit and just ask a show of hands. How many folks have ever shopped at Caman off of Quincy Avenue? A few? So to talk about accessibility, I haven't seen one of the officials at Caman for quite a while, but I was the city councilor when Caman came into the city of Quincy, and that was a great opportunity for me to not only meet the owners and the managers of that excellent establishment, but that whole retail operation that is now so successful. And that's the accessibility communication that I bring as a ward councilor, working with those fine people to develop that whole plaza, as well as Commissioner of Public Works, where for the first time in the city's history, we developed a newsletter that gave you day by day, month by month, season by season, all the work that the Department of Public Works was doing, and we translated that into your language. I don't know if I'm the only candidate, but one of the few that has translated my flyer into your language as well. So I've already begun and continue the process of being open, accessible, communicating. It's extremely important for us to do our jobs well. We all care about the same things. We care about our families, we care about our future, we care about the city's future, and we need to have communication in order to work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold the mic right there. Okay, for right now. Okay, so...
But you told me that earlier.
So now, thank you, candidates, for answering some really tough questions and 5 really hard questions. I'll say that there were many other questions that were in consideration that are really important to the community here in Quincy, both to the Asian community as well as to the entire community. So now we're going to have a closing statement for each candidate for 90 seconds. And in addition to summarizing why you feel that you would be best to serve as an at-large counselor, I just invite you to think about and perhaps speak to any other issues that you feel are really important to the Asian community that we may not have touched upon tonight. And the curveball is that we'd like to ask Mr. Sugas to start with the closing statement.
Thank you very, very much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. I got into this because I was one of you, and basically I saw things happening around me, and I realized that if I don't get involved, if I don't do my part, this country was made for a moral and religious people. It will do for no other, and that is the words of John Adams, who lived here and worked here and helped found our country. And I want to do my part, and so I'm here to do that. I've worked to help lower taxes for you. I've worked on local issues, and it takes someone who has a love up there to be able to love outward. And so that's what I do. I'm on 2 state boards. I'm the chaplain of the Massachusetts Faith and Freedom Coalition. We have 1.3 million Americans. So I've gotten involved in so many different things, and I'm just going to continue to try to do what I can. And if you want me to continue to be an activist, I have been at large for you all this time. And if you want me as your city councilor, please vote for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to all of you today. I'm the only candidate up here that has small children. I have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. Very small, young family. I'm fully invested into our community and our city moving forward. My motives is not for the benefit of me, it's for the benefit of all of you. I'm not going to put my family through this type of situation if I didn't care about all of you. My sacrifice and dedication towards all of you will continue. I haven't missed one city council meeting up there since I've been on the city council. I started as a Park and Recreation Board member, became a school committee member, and then became an at-large member. I did it in steps, and I learned the process of the city. Fully invested, community activist, also coaching football, also helping out veterans. Very important that we continue to educate our children and the public safety for our seniors. I visit senior housings on a yearly basis. It's funny how everybody comes out when it's election time. But what are they doing in the off years? I continuously have been actively out there in the city of Quincy, continuously in the off years, making myself available to all of you. I don't just show up at election time. I'm always out there for you. All I ask, you get 3 votes for councilors at large. For my re-election, I ask all of you to help me out with one of those 3 votes. Thank you for giving me the opportunity tonight. I won't let you down.
Thank you, Mr. Duvall. Ms. LaForest.
Thank you. It has been an honor and a privilege to represent Ward 1 on the City Council for 8 years. I have always been civically engaged in our community. I have over 3 decades of volunteer service with many of our organizations. It is imperative that we protect the integrity of our neighborhoods, preserve Quincy's proud history, promote environmental awareness and economic development in our community. I am known for my strong work ethic, and I'm going to channel that energy to represent the entire city of Quincy. I mentioned in our opening statement my priorities. It's the same for all of you. The quality of life in our community, the future sustainability, the affordability. You have 3 votes in the councilor at large position. Respectfully, I, Margaret LaForest, ask for one of your 3 votes on Election Day, November 7th, to represent you in the city of Quincy as a councilor at large. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kane.
Thank you. So John, to go along the lines of what you were speaking about, one of the issues that I believe is facing our community that had not been addressed is the number of voters that come out and engage with city government, with city elections, does not reflect the diverse community that we have here in this city. In talking to folks over the years, not just when I was in elected office, what I find is that there's a lot of fear and a lot of unknowns with folks here in the community. We are all here to serve all of you. We are your bosses. I mean, you are our bosses. We answer to you. And when folks come out and tell me, no, I'm afraid to go and vote because somebody there doesn't speak my language, or I'm afraid to go and vote because what if I get arrested for voting for the wrong person? There's all this misinformation out there, and it leads to a community that does not take advantage of a right that is theirs to go and cast a vote to determine who their elected officials and their representatives are going to be. And I can tell you that these last 2 years serving all of you have been an amazing opportunity. It's been a tremendous honor and it's a responsibility, and it's one that I take very seriously as your city councilor. I've worked to expect even more of myself, and I think that's what sets me apart. It's the unique perspective, the important perspective that I bring to the council. As a woman, as a millennial, as an Asian American, I know that I want to continue to be your voice for our city, and I humbly ask for one of your 3 votes in my re-election to the City Council. Thank you.
I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. Quincy is my heart and soul. I was born and I was raised here. My parents are here. They're 87 and 90. Much like many in the audience, they are generational. Their families are important. Education was important to our family. Community was important to my family. Being involved in our city is important to my family, just as it is to all of you. It's important that you feel safe in your city. It's important that you feel heard in our city. I want to be that voice for you on the City Council, so you can feel protected in the community that you live in. I want you to become involved and active. I want you to vote. If you're not registered, I can help you get registered to vote. It's important that you take an active role in your community so that your voices can be heard. But even if you don't vote, I want you to know that I'm a person that you can come to, that you can talk to me about the concerns that you have, and that I will make sure that you're represented here in the community that you live in, the community that we live in. I feel as though I've lived here in Quincy my whole life, but becoming an elected official has given me the opportunity to extend my family. I've become part of other people's backgrounds. You have allowed me into your families. I know very many of you here in the audience tonight and your concerns and your fears. But I want to be there to take those fears away and to make you feel safe and at home, just like we all should feel in this city. I want to be your voice on the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Raymond.
Thank you for the invitation. Jonathan did a great job. Thank you all for coming. It's been a pleasure for me to be here. I want to focus on a couple of things that I talked about earlier. One is schools. We all agree how important and how valuable education is for our youngsters, our families, and our community. I served eight years on the Quincy School Committee, making our schools better. At a time when Quincy was closing schools, we insisted on opening schools up and rebuilding them. So many of the families that are here tonight, many of the families across the city have benefited from that work. So if you're concerned about quality education within the city of Quincy, I'm one of your 3 votes. As a city councilor, I wrote the hotel-motel legislation that is unique in Quincy's history. It's brought in $15 million and counting. And those funds are used for open space, parks, playgrounds, beaches, and school improvements. All the things that all of you really care about. As a Public Works Commissioner, my dad was working for the Public Works Department as well. I know the value of roads and how important it is to repair those roads. So what I offer you as a candidate is someone who has a comprehensive approach to government, fiscal responsibility, quality schools, quality police protection, fire safety, and public works. So I humbly ask for one of your 3 votes on November 7th. Thank you for your attention. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Raymond. I want to say thank you to all of our candidates for your participation and your responses tonight. And I invite everyone now to join me in a really loud round of applause to thank them for it. I want to say thank you again to the organizers and sponsors, Quincy Asian Resources, the Asian Community Development Corporation, our co-sponsor South Cove Community Health Center, and North Quincy High School for hosting this evening's forum. I'd like to please remind people that the deadline to register to vote for this election is October 18th. And if you're already registered, but you know someone else who isn't, please encourage them to do so. We urge all of you to please continue to learn and learn more about the issues and learn more about the candidates. And most of all, we encourage all of you to vote on Tuesday, November 7th. Your voice and your vote make a difference. Thank you very much for coming, and have a good night.
如果你有翻译机，请下来还给我们。